Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, and today I'm here to talk about Season 3, Episode 4 of HBO's Industry, entitled White Mischief. The episode's named after a 1987 film entitled White Mischief, which might be a bit more relatable or readily accessible in the minds of UK residents more so than it is here, but I had to look it up. Unsurprisingly, it ties in very directly to this episode. I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about this, but I'm going to read you this description real quick from IMDb about White Mischief, the movie. A millionaire passes prime and his young wife Diana arrive in Kenya circa 1940 to find that the other affluent British expatriates are living large as the home front gears up for war. They are busy swapping partners, doing drugs, and attending lavish parties and horse races. Now, for obvious reasons, I want to pause right there because I want to point out a couple of things. For starters, the wife in the movie is named Diana. Rishi's wife is named Diana. Well done. But secondly, I think in this episode of Industry, it's Rishi that's the Diana character from White Mischief. From the admittedly very little that I've read about this movie, it seems like Diana essentially gets bored of the man that she married for money, and she wants to live this lavish and crazy life that all these other affluent Brits are living in Kenya. That's Rishi, right? Like, one of the themes of this episode is this bravado of Rishi's, this bold and brash character that makes everybody uncomfortable. He believes there's a certain type of person that you have to be effective in this business, and he wants to be perceived as that person. Side note, it seems like that's another minor theme this season too, like the links that people will go to in order to maintain a certain perception. Think about what Eric did to not be perceived as weak. But anyway, Rishi then gets around these people who are truly rich and not in debt to the tune of $200,000. And side note, that screenshot of his account balances, it made me throw up in my mouth a little bit. Anyway, he's trying to please these snobs by pretending like he respects this cricket pavilion that belongs to him, but they make him feel like it's theirs, as Rishi himself put it. Now, in the movie, Diana begins an affair with one of these guys, played by Charles Dance, who we all know as Tywin from Game of Thrones. The husband finds out, Tywin ends up dead, and of course, all signs point to the husband. I don't know if that aspect of the movie plays into the title at all, but I'm pretty sure that all of the mischief that Rishi gets into while on coke is probably another reason for the White Mischief name as well. But that was a long intro. Let's talk about this episode, and it should not surprise you at all that I absolutely loved it. We all saw the potential for this, right? Like, I know I did. Rishi has always been an interesting character to me because he seems like a very stereotypical character in multiple ways. Like, if you're told to envision your typical investment banker on a trading floor, you're probably going to envision a white version of somebody who behaves like Rishi. At the same time, there are a lot of people who behave like Rishi outwardly to mask who they really are and what they're really dealing with. And I've always wondered, like, which of those people Rishi is. Then Rishi has been conspicuously absent from this season so far in the first 3 episodes, aside from some background commentary from him, which we're used to getting some nice little lines in the background that the subtitles aid you in hearing, and some prominent itching. But they left just enough of a tease to let me know that the show had something special in mind for him. Well, last night, we learned what they had in mind for him, and it was an episode that was riveting, devastating, confusing, joyful. It really was Industry's moment to plant its flag in the sand and say, we're going to be the show that's going to fill the void left by Succession. Hey everybody, I just want to take a small break from this review to talk about the various other ways you can engage with me on other platforms. If you're so inclined, and I understand why you wouldn't, I am an acquired taste, but you can join the Patreon where you can get extra content like retro reviews, where I review old shows and movies to see if they still hold up today, Mike's Musings, where I talk about shows I'm watching that I don't cover on the channel, or Mike's VOD, where you can commission me to watch a show, which I will then review on the channel. And if you want to engage with me and chat with me more directly, I also implore you to join the Discord and follow the Facebook page. I set up channels in the Discord for all of us to discuss the shows I'm reviewing on the channel, and I also drop new videos in there since it's the easiest platform for me to share to from my phone. The Facebook can be really fun because I sort of live comment on shows I'm watching, often while under the influence, I'm not going to lie. And I'll also share news there, both about television and film and about myself as well. So if you like my content, you want to be more engaged, you think I'm charming, or you simply want to show support, Feel free to sign up for the Patreon or join the Discord or Facebook today. Links to all platforms are in every video description. Remember to share all my shit to your respective social media platforms. And now back to this review. One of the things that I loved about this episode is that it had Rishi dealing with multiple crises simultaneously. So let's talk about the variety of things that Rishi was juggling in this episode. First up, for starters, he has this side gambling thing going on at the office. He's been collecting money from the co-workers to place bets, but he hasn't been paying out winnings like, oh, you made this bet, you won, here's your money. He's just been using their money to fund his own gambling addiction, and now he's in the hole, 200 grand total, and he owes this guy, Vinay, 20 grand. He's essentially doing the equivalent of, like, let's say you win money on DraftKings or something, and then rather than cashing it out after you win, you just kind of like let that bank and settle in your account and then place bets out of your winnings. So like if you won 20 bucks, you might bet 10 and then keep the other 10. And then like theoretically, it will just continue to snowball and you'll develop a nice sizable balance in your account. That's what Rishi is doing with his coworkers, but the money's not actually there. He's pissing it all away on his own shit. If any of them were to want to cash out, like, hey, Rishi, I made, well, in Eric's case, I made $8,000. I want my money. Rishi would be fucked. Imagine if you were doing what I just described on DraftKings, and after you'd amassed a significant amount of money, you went to cash out. DraftKings was like, we ain't got it. That's what makes it so intense when he collects that, he being Rishi, when he collects that $2,000 from everyone around the bar, and then he gives it to Eric as a payout. We know that he really, truly needs Eric to not keep that money, and I think maybe even in that moment, Eric knows that too, which is why he allows Rishi to keep it. But what makes it so devastating is that after all of that, Rishi gives Vinay his watch rather than the money, then takes the money to the casino. That feeling you got when he did that, or that feeling you got like watching him fight that guy in the club with the money sitting on there on the floor under the couch, or when he manages to escape the club with the money only to just go back to the casino and lose it all, leaving the money from his baby's greeting card sitting on the card table. That's what makes this arguably the best show on television right now. So Rishi's got the side bets going on at work, and he's amassed massive debt. And then the second thing he's dealing with is that he's also running up significant risk at work as well. Now, I'm going to try to explain to you guys what Rishi's got going on at Pierpoint as best I can. But here's the thing. I don't fucking understand it, and we don't really need to. Like, I could not explain it at all. And it wouldn't matter, because what I can explain to you is I can explain what the episode did to help you understand when something good happened for Rishi versus when something bad happened for him. And that's another reason this show is so great. They're going to hit you with all the financial speak that makes no sense at all to a vast majority of the audience, but that makes the show feel legitimate. It makes it feel like a smart show. It makes you feel like a smart person watching it. But then it'll do other more subtle but effective things to help the audience understand, and the character who spoke all that financial mumbo jumbo got a desirable or undesirable result. This episode leans into that heavily. Whenever Rishi's talking about what he's doing at work, I stare at my screen like Patrick Starfish. Yet somehow, we all understood how it played out for Rishi in the end, didn't we? So let's talk about that. Best I can make of it is that Rishi is investing a whole lot of Pierpoint's money beyond what is considered to be acceptable risk in something that seems unlikely to happen. Or, well, let me take that back. Because it may not be unlikely to happen. It's just that the investment is so high that the risk is high, and that if it doesn't work out, the company can be FUBAR, fuck beyond all recognition. This episode makes the gravity of Rishi's play, it makes it clear through several conversations with that guy Anraj that sits next to Rishi. He's been freaking out over Rishi's decisions all season. And through the conversation with Eric after that HR situation, which is the next thing that we're going to talk about that he was dealing with, but we'll get to that in a moment. Also note in this scene, the scene with Eric, is how Rishi responds to Eric's legitimate concerns by giving him shit over the failure of Lumi, over how he handled Harper. Like, we also know Rishi doesn't respect how Eric handled the kidney situation either. So I think all of that, I'm not trying to insinuate anything, but I'm just saying, file all that away in the back of your memory just in case it matters later. Rishi has given Eric a lot of shit. I don't know if Eric's going to just continue to let that happen. Anyway, what Rishi's been doing all season is going long on sterling cable. Apparently, we can break that term down to find out what it means. Long, meaning that the expectation is that the value will increase over time. Sterling is just a word for the British pound. That's their currency, just like ours is the dollar. And cable is the conversion rate. So essentially, Rishi is betting that the British pound will increase in value over time relative to how it trades against the American dollar. And he's betting so colossally on that Anraj is freaking out, the risk department is freaking out, and Eric is freaking out. Now, Rishi is confident that something that the Chancellor is about to announce regarding an emergency budget is going to cause this gamble that he's made to pay off. Now, I may not be 100% accurate with everything that I said, but I'm close enough for it to not matter anyway, so fuck it. Because again, understanding the intricacies of the transaction is irrelevant, right? You may not understand the details of the transaction. I don't fully understand the details, but you knew, based on Rishi's reaction to that alert that Sweet Pea read out loud, that something had gone favorably for him. The Chancellor had announced whatever Rishi was expecting him to announce. And I bet you understand that when he got back to the office, despite that announcement going his way, the market didn't respond the way that he expected. And his another Game of Thrones reference, his joy quickly turned to ashes in his mouth, right? You understood that, didn't you? And that's a real talent that this show has, to be able to get these genuine reactions out of us in response to shit that we don't even really remotely kind of sort of understand. At least most of us anyway, myself included. After the Chancellor's announcement doesn't go how Rishi expected, he later gets a call from Harper over at Leviathan Alpha. And can I just say, Harper has already adopted like douchebag body language after her and Petra's shit seems to be going so well. But he gets a call from Harper, and she's looking to buy pounds. The fact that Harper is inquiring, it causes Rishi to suspect that she knows something, and it turns out that she did. The Chancellor rolls back whatever it was that he said. Rishi makes a ton of money, and Anraj points out that he's not really a good trader, he's just lucky. To which Rishi correctly responds with, "What's the difference?" The third thing Rishi had going on in this episode was this HR complaint. Apparently, there's a subreddit called Overheard at Pierpoint where people post vile comments that they've heard. And HR reads a couple of these comments to Rishi in person. And I love this scene because the comments were very Rishi-esque. Like, the veal calf one was particularly impressive. But at the end of the day, Rishi was 100% in the right when he snaps on him and how indignant he was in doing so. Like, it's uncorroborated quotes from anonymous sources that don't even name him directly. I'd be just as angry as him. Like, don't do that to me. Like, don't call me into an HR meeting and say, we have nothing more than faith to go on, but we're going to try to blame you for this. Like, I'll fuck around and give you a real quote for your HR file if you try to post some shit like that with me. But Rishi obsesses over this, calling the person putting these quotes on Reddit a snitch, and he suspects everyone is potentially being this snitch. We ultimately find out that it was Venetia who was doing it. And we also find out that she's quitting Pierpoint to escape the male toxicity there. That's a turn of events that I think is pretty significant that is downplayed and easy to miss in this episode. But I did not expect to lose Venetia as a character right now. So we'll see how that plays out. The fourth and final thing that Rishi deals with in this episode is his relationship with his wife. The sex not popping off. He's not going down on her. We know that Rishi sleeps around with everything moving. We learned in this episode that despite how he treats her, not only has he had sex with Sweet Pea, but he even mentions leaving his wife for her. Now, I don't think he meant that at the time. Like, I don't think he actually wants to leave his wife for Sweet Pea. And by the end of the episode, him and his wife seem to have shockingly gotten through everything, and they're okay. And I'll get to that in a minute. But his obsession with being with younger women and being turned off by his wife being a mother, that's some really, really problematic shit, man. But he also seems to get off on the idea of other men getting her off, as we see her try to use this as a strategy to turn him on early in the episode. But then, toward the end of the episode, I thought she was trying to, like, cheer him up, which by turning him on when she confesses this affair with the neighbor Nicholas. And he's like, "Did you come?" And she's like, "Oh, yeah." Whole bunch of times, man, hard. And I'm like, wow, this is a serious commitment to this role play that they got going on. But then Rishi's devastated, and then somehow this makes them closer? I don't know, man. Like, they have sex, he goes down on her. I'm just like, man, I don't know what's going on. Rishi's one twisted dude, man. But Diana, she might be perfect for him because she seems kind of twisted herself. So the episode ends with Rishi seemingly having returned to his true self. destroying the cricket pavilion and their wall of rich bearded white men, and then telling Vinay, hey man, I've got the 200K, but I want to put 50 of it on that tip that you were telling me about. Man, what a ride, what a ride. So I want to close by taking this time to talk about moments in the episode that I felt were noteworthy, but just didn't really fit into the general conversation. So here in Michigan, we have these commercials. They're themed pure Michigan, and they showcase shit you can do around the state that is authentically Michigan. Like, yo, this is some Michigan ass shit. So it's pure Michigan. They just put that across the thing, right? Dripping blood from your nose onto your newborn baby because you do too much coke while you rub one out to your coworkers' OnlyFans, but you're too broke to tip them. Pure Rishi, man. that was a perfect Rishi moment, man. The stuff with his back did ultimately just end up being internal stress manifesting outwardly, but I really did like the back scratching in previous episodes as a tease for this one. Like, okay, so there's obviously something going on here. What is it? When are they going to tell us what it is? How are they going to tell us what it is? So I was interested in that. I'm glad we got an answer. We learned they gave their dog away, thinking that Rishi was allergic to it. That kind of sucks, but he got the dog back in the end, so cool. Also, excuse me, can I just say, in the meeting that almost felt like an intervention where everybody from the floor was telling Rishi how shitty he makes them feel, I love how he was basically like, look, like, you guys are hitting me with all this talk about your feelings and how I make you feel and all this culture war bullshit. Meanwhile, China is getting more powerful. He points at that one Asian guy in the room. The guy's like, what's this got to do with me? Yeah, man. Anyway, lastly, and I think we all agree here, this quote from his wife, magnificent. It's much easier to raise strong boys than to fix broken men. Wonderful quote. So, on that note, let me know what you thought in the comments. I will see you guys next week, and until then, peace.